Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MFFL Nation podcast. I'm here with my co-host Amir. We are here at you after a big Mavs playoff win. Mavs tied the Clippers in the series 1-1. Mavs win 96 to 93. Just an unreal performance by Luka Doncic in the second half, shot after shot. So just some great stuff there. Amir, how are you feeling about the win?
Feeling really good. I'm feeling really good. Um, it was a very unexpected type of game, I'd say. I mean, just given the offenses that the Clippers and the Mavs both have, seeing both teams really buckle down on defense and have like a grind it out type of game, was not definitely not what we expected. Uh, but given especially at the beginning that the Mavs struggled to hit shots, which happened in the previous game, but in that game, the Clippers offense just went crazy at the beginning. Whereas here, they struggled even more than the Mavs at the beginning, shooting really poorly, especially from three.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
agree.
yeah, it just throughout the game, just kept going like that.
I agree with you there. And I think when you look at the box score, it really, every time in a playoff game, a box score, you won't have to look at the score. If you just look at the field goal percentage numbers for the role players, typically that team wins. And we saw it in game one, and we saw it tonight. PJ Washington, 18 points, 5 for 10, 3 for 4 from three. Derek Jones Jr., 4 for 6, 10 points. Maxi 2 for 3 from three. Lively 7 points, 9 rebounds. Josh Green 7 rebounds. Just role players that perfect their role and that played very well tonight. Gafford got hurt in the first quarter, so that sort of killed our vibe at the beginning. And then Derek Lively made an immediate impact. So and Maxi, man, I mean, just play after play. But we'll get into that later. What were your thoughts about how the Mavs turned this around so quickly from game one to now?
Um, the way I see it actually is that it didn't really feel like the Mavs really like turned it around in a sense. It didn't feel like the Mavs played much differently than especially at the end of the first game. It just felt like the Mavs just kept pushing. This is something that I talked about in the previous podcast that I was on, where I just thought that the Mavs like wouldn't relent, just kept going, kept pushing, kept pushing. And I think that like just going for loose balls, being more physical, taking that extra, putting in that extra 10% just made the difference. All the 50-50 balls in this game, getting rebounds, stuff like that. I think that was the biggest difference tonight.
Yeah, and what's funny is in game one where we were awful offensively until the fourth, we finished the game with 97 points. We finished the game today with 96. And it was sort of similar, but what kept us in the game was that the defense was phenomenal and the Clippers weren't hitting their open shots like they usually do. I think James Harden was like 2 for 10 from three. Um, and
Right.
that changed the game. So, I mean, if you look at it, the offense wasn't that much better than what it was in game one. PJ obviously performed well, but like Luka and Kyrie performed well in game one in the fourth quarter as well. And they did the same thing today. It was just the defense. And man, I don't remember the last time a Mavs defense was this good in franchise history. It's probably been since 2011.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I'll say 2022 versus the Suns, there were some games that our defense really was really good. So it reminded me of that. But even then, like the defense that Luka played tonight, not just him, but everybody, was just is phenomenal. Like the fact, like it honestly didn't even really feel like Kawhi even came back. Like he actually played decent for the minutes that he played, but he just like didn't really get the ball much. He didn't have much room to operate. Harden and Paul George had less room to operate. Zubats, we played much more physical on him. Uh, I don't know. It just looked much better from the team defensively. Some of the contests we were getting in were really, really good. A lot to be proud of on that end for sure. You're muted, man.
You look at what we talked about in recent episodes about how the Mavs were going to guard the Clippers. It was, is PJ going to guard Kawhi and Derek Jones Jr. going to guard Paul George? And let me tell you, props to Jason Kidd because the defensive schemes and rotations that we had today were amazing. And Jason Kidd was probably the most involved we've seen him like coaching on the sideline since that Phoenix Suns series in 2022. And I mean, you could hear him yelling through the TNT broadcast, and he wasn't mic'd up. It was that kind of energy from him. And I think something like that really boosts the morale for the players and makes them want to play and be more hungry on the defensive end. But going back to, having guys like Kawhi, PG, and Harden, and even Norman Powell, I mean, the matchups that we had, I mean, I thought Kyrie did a phenomenal job on James Harden today. I thought Luka did a unreal job on Kawhi Leonard. Um, I mean, did PJ and Derek Jones Jr. and Josh Green just did phenomenal jobs on everyone. Got all the 50-50 balls, and that's what it takes to win games. And we saw that. The defense was amazing. Maxi Kleber was great. Um, but yeah, one thing I do want to mention, and Mavs fans aren't bringing it up, I guess because everyone's still happy about the win. I'm very happy. But I think it needs to be discussed about how Dante Exum has performed in the playoffs. You look at it in his two games, he is 1 for 5, over one from the three, 3 points in the series, zero assists, two turnovers, and three rebounds. That's just not good for someone that you relied on in the regular season. You look at what Dante did in the regular season when it came to Sacramento, when it came to the Houston game, um, the Lakers win early in the season. Games like that where he hit the Spurs game too, where he just was hitting clutch shots. We haven't seen that from Dante. I mean, shocking, but Dante Exum played 6 minutes today, which I feel like that might have been what you wanted to talk about. Is that what you wanted to talk about and you don't want to tell me?
It's not, but I will. That was one of the players I said was going to step up tonight, and he did not.
Nope.
But honestly, I'm not too worried about him. Like the fact, I think,
I'm worried.
right, 10 player. I think we'll be all right, right? In the playoffs, you need a 7, 8 man rotation. 10 players for us played. Tim got hurt, obviously, so that's leaves 9. Uh, and it seems like although Josh didn't hit his shots tonight, it seems like he's kind of taking those Tim and Exum minutes and doing solid. And so I think we just need to keep giving Exum a little bit of time, and I think he'll have a good game eventually. Um, Again, it's a lot of these guys, first time in the playoffs, or at least first time in a long time, first time having this kind of role. Um, so just an adjustment. Like honestly, like the game that the Mavs played tonight during the regular season, I don't think the Mavs have ever played a game in that like way. Like they're just so defensive, like um struggling on the offensive end. This is a team that's like one of the best teams in the league in offense, averaging 118 a game, putting up 96, but in a win, right? So honestly, just giving the guys a little bit more time, I think the Mavs offense will find itself. Both teams will end up figuring out ways to get past each other a little bit more. Um, so yeah, I'm not too worried about Exum. The guy I was going to bring up though was Derek Jones Jr., who especially in the first quarter, the first couple minutes especially, um, literally when I was watching the game, just I sat down, uh, I just kept shouting at my TV, drive the ball, drive the ball, drive the ball, don't settle for threes. It was the same thing in the first game where we shot too many threes, just settled for shots that we weren't hitting, right? And especially the first couple of minutes, him, Gafford, and a couple of other guys were really attacking the basket. And that's the reason that like a lot of their guys, especially Zubats, early got in foul trouble, right? Where we just kept attacking the rim, which really helped a lot. Something I will say real quick, I know I've been talking for a little bit, but um, I still noticed, even though Luka, especially in the second half, played really good, I still saw a lot of indecisive moments from him where he looked not 100%. He hobbled around at one point in the second quarter for a little bit. Just Luka was not playing like himself, especially in the first half. And so I'm wondering if that's something that's going to persist or not. I'm hoping not, given what we know about Luka. He's great. And even in games where he isn't playing at his best, he still plays at such a high level, which is incredible. But we'll see how that progresses, I guess, throughout the series.
Yeah, yeah, we will. I don't agree with you on the whole Exum thing. I think we should be worried. The way the Clippers are guarding him right now, it's hard for him to score. They're guarding him as a catch and shoot kind of player, but once he starts driving the ball, they just sag off because they know he's not a mid-range kind of player. He shot a funky one today too. The shot clock was low, I think, but you know,
Right.
I just he'll stay in the rotation. I think until if like this happens, like if this happens like two more consecutive games, like this is where you have discussion. But I think he'll possibly fix it. I think Gafford's another thing we have to talk about. Where is Derek Lively? I don't think you do this, but a lot of fans have been asking me about it. Um, should Derek Lively start over Daniel Gafford now? And I personally say no, because if you look at the Mavs playoff run in 2022, when Dwight Powell was starting, he played for the first 3 or 4 minutes because he sucked. And then they'd sub in Maxi and he played the rest of the half. And I don't think it will get to that bad, but I think we could see a similar situation with Gafford and Lively where Gafford continues to start if we're winning just because you don't want to mess up the mojo. And Lively plays most of the minutes. What do you think about that?
I agree, but for a different reason. The reason that I think that Gafford should start or just keep it the way it is the fact that um, especially in the first like couple minutes of the game, uh, one of the things that they try to do offensively, especially when things aren't going for the Clippers, is they try to get Zubats involved. And as we know, Zubats is a guy who's really physical, and we've had problems with fouls in games one and two, I guess, to an extent, more so in game one, where especially in this game, actually, I think where Gafford foul, he had two fouls pretty fast. And so the way I see it is that I don't think that Lively would be able, if you want him to play heavy minutes, um, I think he'd be too prone to getting into foul trouble too early. And then if Gafford continues to, struggle, then you don't have that like that other option just there. Um, I feel like you need Lively to come off the bench as sort of like a kind of like I guess an energy guy, just something to change it up kind of thing, right? And also just not to rattle Gafford's confidence, Like we got to make sure that he knows that the team is believing in him, and that even though he struggled and he's hurt and everything, that he's still very capable of being a great player. I think he'll grow into the series too.
Yeah, and I think that's something you bring up a good point where we want him to know like the team's still supporting him and everything. And I think we sort of lost that with Tim. I don't know if you saw during the game when they put him on the screen when he was suited up in like his street clothes when he knew he was done for the game. And obviously he was upset he got hurt, but he just did not look happy on the bench. Um, I didn't really notice if he was rooting for the guys or not, like standing up with everyone. Um, but
And he
that's
was sitting in like the second row of the bench, I saw. But
yeah, he
yeah,
was. But I think I think Tim knows by now that these are his final days in Dallas. I think he's gone in the off season. I just don't. What's so frustrating is his trade values drop so much. Um,
he
so
frankly doesn't have trade value really.
he definitely has trade value. I mean, some teams will consider him the kind of player that is probably just like needs a new location. Um, I mean,
Yeah,
if
maybe.
you think about it, you take out the last 2 months, man. You can't judge a player on their last 2 months. You have to judge them by their past 2 years. And other than the last 2 months, he's been pretty freaking good. He's had his
Yeah.
little slumps, but I mean, before this little slump that he's had for the last 2 months, Tim Hardaway Jr. was averaging 17, 18 points a game.
He was
Uh,
in 6 Man of the Year discussions at the very
he
beginning of the season, if
he
you
he
remember.
was he was the favorite. He was the favorite for a
Yeah,
while. Him and Austin Reeves were going back and forth, and even like his 40 something point performance against the Pelicans, like that was crazy with Kyrie, no Luka, like
right.
just so. I love Timmy, man. I think Timmy's a great guy. So it sort of sucks to see it happen, but it's part of the game. Um, who
He's
knows
also
where?
been on the team for like 5 years now, which is pretty crazy to
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Well, more even.
he had a solid run. I think he would have been big for us in that 2022 run, honestly, when Reggie sort of got into a shooting slump in the Phoenix series, or not the Phoenix series,
Right.
the Golden
Golden
State.
State.
Yeah. So, but Timmy, I hope he heals up because whether people like it or not, he can be someone in the playoffs where you get two or three quick threes.
It's
And
just an option that you like to have off the bench, you know? You can
yep,
provide something that not a lot of players can provide.
yep, you need to have players that can get you role players that can get you on a 6-0 run, 8-0 run. And that's someone where you look at PJ that can do it. You look at Norman Powell, he can do it. Russell Westbrook can do it. Hell, Derek Lively can do it. um,
I don't know about that, but
yeah, but I mean, man, I'm excited about this performance, and I always tell people game two is more important than game one when you're the road team. Because if you win game one and lose game two, you're going back home, and you're like, okay, we're playing at home. You win game two, and you're going back home for game three.
you got that momentum on your
Got
side.
the momentum, and the crowd is going crazy for you guys now. Crazy. I mean, I'm going to be at game three. I can't wait. I think it's going to be literally insanity. Um, I can't wait. But yeah, I mean, how do you feel about us going into Dallas game three with a win right now? Do you feel pretty confident?
Um, I don't know, honestly. I think the style of play is going to change in this game or the next because I think that for both of the teams, it's like a little weird right now.
Nope.
And just keeping up that kind of intensity for like a long playoff series is just like it's hard, you know? And also, these are two teams that are capable of like really big runs that neither of them have really been making, with the exception of, I guess, Clippers in game one at the beginning. Each team, this is also something that uh I don't know if we talked about in the previous podcast or not. I think we did. Um, but again, I know Jason Kidd did really well today, overall with the defense and with the challenge at the end of the game. Can't take that away from him. He did great. But one thing I do uh consistently get annoyed about Kidd, which I guess was the opposite problem we had with Rick Carlisle back in the day, is that he just doesn't take timeouts to stop momentum at the right times. He just doesn't do it. And I saw it a couple of times in this game as well, where they went on like a 9-0 run or something, where like the timeout should have happened like 2 or 3 plays ago. Whereas Tyronn Lue, it's like it's clear. What do the Mavs get on like a run immediately, timeout, and like he's taking them like at the right times, like when they need him, and for the most part, usually stops the run. So
Yeah.
like,
I
and
will say,
I know
I
you love
will.
talking about those ATO plays.
Oh my
So
gosh, Tyronn Lue is a freaking ATO play genius. For people that don't know what an ATO is, it's an after timeout, sideline or baseline out of bounds play. And he has executed them perfectly in this series in both game one and game two. Game one, he had like three plays for it. Today, he had like one or two. But
no, there are at least two. There might have been a third also.
yeah, they're very good. Tyronn Lue is a good coach, I think, in my opinion. And also, what's hard is like Tyronn Lue knows how Kyrie plays, and not that you can really stop. No one can stop Kyrie, but he knows how to probably discomfort him more than a little coaches because he coached him in the past. Um, so that's like a little rough situation there that doesn't really get talked about a lot. But overall, man, really, really excited about this win. Um, it was really stressful watching it as a fan. Um,
Yeah.
so excited about this win. I think it showed a lot of about resiliency about this team. And, on to game 3, man. 1-1, we're going back to
Yeah,
the
actually,
AAC.
yeah, I'm so excited. But actually, another thing I was gonna bring up, um, that's different about this team than previous Mavs teams, especially I forget if it was last year, 2 years ago, when we were one of the worst teams in the clutch. I forget what year it was, but it was pretty recent. It might have been last year. Um, Whereas this year, just given like the resiliency of this team and just like they keep fighting, like even when like the other team goes on runs and stuff. In both of these games, I haven't seen, like anybody with like their heads down or anything like that. Like the players don't lose their cool or anything. They just keep pushing and pushing, keep playing the game. And that's something that you don't really see from a lot of teams. Usually like that's like a really impressive thing. And I think it also speaks to the chemistry that these guys have. But this year, just looking at regular season, the Mavs are the second best team in the clutch this year, winning 72% of the time. 23 and 9. And so I think that compared to I think it was last year, but it might have been a little before when just whenever it was a close game, it's just like we drop it. And I think that shows a lot of maturity for the guys. I think this is a really good unit, and game 3 should be fun. That's
Yeah,
that's it.
that's a very good point. And being that kind of clutch team of the playoffs is probably it's so important, man, because there's so many close games. So you bring up a
Right.
great there, but yeah, man, game 3 is going to be exciting. Tied 1-1. Mavs going in with your momentum to the AAC American Airlines Center on Friday. So yeah, man, excited to see what we got going there. And as always, appreciate you coming on, my man.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
For sure. We'll
Uh,
see you.
yeah. Go Mavs.